So welcome back, everybody. This is going to be a fun episode today. I have a unique experience to test two different types of mower decks on our Grasshopper 900D. So in this video, we're going to discuss the pros and cons of a side discharge deck, probably the most popular out there. And I have borrowed a rear discharge deck right here that we're going to interchange out on this mower and actually see and discuss the differences. So your typical side discharge deck, the grass comes out the side. We have a blade over there, a blade in the middle, blade right here. So whatever you cut, starting all the way from that edge, gets thrown across through all the other blades and is side discharged. On this rear discharge deck, you'll notice the sides are completely welded in. There is no side discharge. It all comes out the rear underneath this flap right here. We'll show you the underneath side in just a minute. So let's discuss some of the pros and cons. This may help you with your next mower, and a lot of people don't realize rear discharge is even available. It definitely has some benefits to it. They both do, pros and cons, so to speak. So think about this, when you're cutting thicker grass especially, that's where some of you may really like a rear discharge deck. Because it's cutting it, dumping it straight out the back, it's less strain on the equipment, on the mower, because you're not throwing from blade to blade to blade before you finally discharge or exit the grass clippings. So these do tend to cut and discharge easier and run easier on the equipment. Now, as a result, that can be a negative for some people as well. You're gonna wind up with larger clippings here because it's not being mulched up finer. Again, on the side discharge, whatever grass clippings this blade cuts, it throws into this blade. That one chops it up. We're baffled underneath here. It goes to this blade before it's finally exited on this side. So you're gonna wind up with smaller clippings because you have run through more of the blades in the mower itself. Let's talk about another benefit. Y'all, you see how crazy windy it is here today? Hopefully you can hear me all right. Rear discharge, think about this, because it's exiting the grass clippings, the dust, the dirt, everything else underneath the mower. Well, that's less that winds up on you. On a very windy day like today, we all have been there. On side discharge mowers that's kind of kicking it out up in front of you, especially in this case, there's a potential for that dust and dirt to blow back on you. Whereas whenever you're discharging to the rear and you're going the opposite direction that the grass clippings and dust and dirt's coming out, this is actually going to be cleaner on you. Now, there's something we should discuss with that, because grass clippings are now coming out, say, going underneath the mower. There are some protections you want to put in. Grasshopper, for example, offers a plate for that. All right, so you can see yesterday we installed a plate right here. So as the grass clippings come out underneath my mower, they don't wind up going in the mower itself. It's a very simple design. You can put right in, and it just keeps the grass clippings on the ground coming out from behind the mower. And any mower with a radiator, well, you've got to be careful of grass clippings as well. So also, we added this rubber piece right here that seals up underneath the seat and seals out this compartment. So should any rear discharge grass clippings come through, they don't wind up in the radiator screen as bad. So let's talk another big pro to a rear discharge deck like this. This is going to be really popular with people that mow in municipalities, graveyards. Maybe you do a lot of residential mowing and there's homes with windows and glass and stuff everywhere. Think about this, where a rear discharge really shines is now you're no longer exiting materials out the side, a potential stick, a rock, anything you pick up. So there's a lot less hazard here with a rear discharge deck of creating like an airborne hazard, say a rock going through a window or hitting a passing by car. That's why you'll see a lot of municipalities, cities, landscapers run the rear discharge, because things are being dumped right back out straight to the ground instead of potentially being thrown out into the roadway or into that home. Now, some pros to a side discharge. By far your most common deck, and again, it's probably going to give you the most even distribution of materials. It's also going to mulch it up finer, so you're going to get what appears to be a little bit better cut with something like this, at least as far as what's left behind. Now, the blades on this particular front mount series deck, by the way, Grasshopper offers your mid mount, just like the most common zero turn that you see out there. These are counter rotating because some rear discharge decks can actually wind row really bad. So I guess you can say, in a sense, that could be a con with a rear discharge deck, the way the material's left behind you. Whereas on the side discharge, again, it's evenly thrown out in a sense. Now I'm going to show you a clip here real quick. I recently got to see one of Grasshopper's sit on top mid-mount style mowers. And one really cool thing about that rear discharge deck right there, it has an additional blade in the back. What's called a spreader blade. I thought that was an awesome idea. So as your grass clippings are dumped to the rear, this blade actually spreads it out and fans it out, so you're not left with those specific windrows behind each blade. So let's go in the shop. I've been wanting to take the deck off the front of this anyways and show y'all how this mower works. I absolutely love my mower here. And we're gonna move over to the rear discharge, and we're gonna do some cutting. I have some really thick pasture grass that I typically mow with a tractor out here. I mean, it's really thick, nasty bahia, some of the toughest grass there is. Now I have two different size decks here, 6-footer over here on the side discharge, 61-inch here on the rear discharge. So it's not gonna be a true apples to apples comparison, but my gut says, having owned rear discharge in the past, this one's gonna be so much easier on the mower, especially mowing in thick materials. Plus it being a really windy day, I kinda wanna see how it dumps and puts everything behind me, how the dust hazard is, all that good stuff. So before we move this deck, I'm gonna give you a look on the underside of a side discharge. Most of you are familiar with that, but you may be in the market for your first mower. And we'll also give you a look underneath the rear discharge so you can see that these are set up completely different. Now, the one thing I love about these Grasshopper front mount mowers is the ability to raise the deck, remove it, change decks out. It's just something you can't do easily with other types of mowers. All right, so if we take a look underneath, you can see these were the baffles that I was talking about. So everything is baffled and enclosed around a blade in order to move airflow, grass clippings, all out this opening that you see right here. That is the exit point of the mower. Thus the reason they're called side discharge. All right, so let me show you how to remove this deck off this mower right here. So you flip up your foot plate. Right here on the side, there is a tool that comes built into the deck, and this is to aid in removing tension. So we've got that together for some leverage. All right, so we're gonna come right here and remove these clips, that washer. Underneath here is our drive shaft, and it has a pullback collar right there. It's hard for me to do this while holding the camera, so I'm just gonna pull that collar back, pull the drive shaft itself off. The drive shaft system is what makes these so easy to work with all the other accessories and different decks. Let me get that pulled off. You see, that's nice, quick, and easy. And you're gonna wanna leave the drive shaft for this style deck with it and use the drive shaft that comes with the new style deck. All right, next we're gonna take the end of this and insert it right into here. This actually takes some tension off so we can slack this up and just pull the chain right off of these pins. All right, so let me get that in here, press down, remove the chain, and release that tension. Let's do it to the other side, and we're ready to remove the deck. And the very last thing to do, these pins right here, we're actually gonna pull those pins out and over, unlocking this. Okay, you can see I pulled it out, put it over here to the side. I'm gonna do it to that one. We're unpinned and unlocked. Now the deck itself locks down in over these bolts right here. You're gonna see as soon as I remove this. And how we're gonna lift the deck up is with this deck lift that we already have right here. So we'll just press the button. You can see the deck is coming up. Now, disconnect this cable, which is right here. I'm gonna flip the seat forward, unplug it, and I can literally just roll the deck out of the way. Check that out. So y'all want to talk about something that looks strange? Check this out. No deck out front, looks really, really strange. Let's double check everything. The shaft's connected, pins are locked, chains are locked. We're just that quick, we've got a whole new mower deck on this thing. All right, so if we take a look underneath here, you can see what's going on. I'll clean all the grass clippings and stuff out later, but you can see we got baffles up front, but that's it. The back is wide open right here, so whatever this cuts is gonna discharge over to here. Middle's obviously gonna discharge to the middle, and this one's gonna kind of throw. So this several foot wide area that we have right here is where all of our grass clippings are gonna go. That's what we're gonna kind of take a look at here in just a second. Ooh, it is windy. I mean, y'all. Oh my goodness. So this is gonna be a real, just pulling my tripod over. So this is gonna be a really good test for the rear discharge. I'm curious to see if this is gonna keep me clean. I've always heard they're much cleaner mowing. That may be something you're interested in. So I'm mowing pasture grass out here, y'all. This is bahia grass, if you're not familiar with it. Very common in the South. Very tough, hard to mow. And you can see how thick this stuff is. This is way thicker than a yard ever would be. Man, oh man, I'm mowing so fast. I don't hear the engine changing at all. All right, y'all, first impressions. Holy smokes, can I mow so fast with this deck. It's definitely less strain on the engine due to size and the rear discharge. I mean, I was cutting way faster than I should have been through that thick of material. Now, as a result, I'm not expecting as good of a cut, and the deck's still a little high, which it needs to be because I'm mowing a pasture right now, not a yard. Oh, before I get too far gone, the other thing to note, not a piece of grass on me. Man, you stay nice and clean with that. Nothing was kicking up at all, and it's crazy windy. So yes, you're gonna be much cleaner. If you have a heck of a sandy yard or just hate grass and stuff constantly blowing up on you, dust and all, you might wanna consider a rear discharge. So let's come out here and take a look. Y'all seen that I was flying. I could slow down and get a much better cut, no doubt about that. But what I'm really looking for is, I don't see windrows like I typically do with rear discharge. So they've designed this well that, look, all the clippings are from here to here, and it's kind of nice and even. Now let's take a look at the size clippings that you're left with. So you can see it's bigger cuts of grass. That's to be expected because you're cutting once and dumping straight out the back. You're not mulching from blade to blade. So I just mowed all that over to there, plus all that over here in just a couple minutes. Like, I didn't have to slow down at all. I really can't believe the power difference I get with that size deck and the rear discharge. So if you had a lot of heavy mowing to do, that's probably the way to go. Now, my gut feeling is if you're gonna mow a little slower and you want finer clippings and a more manicured leftover yard, basically, side discharge is gonna be the way to go. All right, let's go put the side discharge deck on now that we've mowed a pretty big swath right here and we got some good comparison results. We listened to the tone of the engine, although it hardly changed. I had to get over here in some really thick stuff where I finally heard the engine tone change a little, and then it just picked right back up. That's perfectly normal. All right, so before I swap this deck back out, I decided to do some more mowing. I want to do regular yard mowing. So I've got it dropped way down for a very low profile cut, what a lot of you are going to be doing in your yard. And I mowed through a really thick area of grass that we have here, up by the house, mowed some bahia. And let's talk about the results real quick. First of all, still crazy windy. Typically when I mow around the pool, I can't help it. I get grass clippings all in the pool. Did not happen this time because of that rear discharge. I mean, look, no grass clippings, no nothing. So if you constantly are mowing around vehicles, a pool, home, man, the rear discharge is really good for that. Now, one thing I'm noticing right off the rip, we had a lot of bahia stalks up here. You can just kind of see these staying left out here, although they're nice and evenly, distributed. Here's a benefit to a rear discharge. So this area always gets really thick. You can take a look at all the old clumpy grass from the last time we mowed. When you have side discharge, it just blows this clumpy stuff all into a big pile over there. Now, when you're mowing the rest of the yard that doesn't have thick grass, that's not a problem. So I kind of like what the rear discharge did as far as puts everything nice and even out here, didn't leave it in a huge windrow. Now there's a plus and minus to that. Some people want to blow all this mess off and mulch it down so you don't really see it. Some people wouldn't be happy with leaving it like this. But then some people want to cut once, put it out there and be done with it, and don't want it blown again into that huge windrow, which can actually kill grass off and shade and cause other problems. I'm just showing all this to help you make an informed decision. I don't think there's no right or wrong here. It's up to your needs and wants for rear discharge versus side discharge. All right, here we go with the larger 72-inch deck, side discharge. Still really windy. Let's see the difference. bunching up grass in front of this because it's so thick. I'm covered. That's what I was expecting with the crazy winds that we have today. All right, y'all, I'm really glad we did this test because there's something else worth mentioning. Look how thick that is. That is just huge clumps of grass that I'm pushing in front of the mower. Y'all, that's gonna happen with any side discharge mower mowing in this thick grass. Nobody's really mowing this thick of grass, at least as far as a yard goes. Now, if you're a landscape professional, you're probably going to brand new yards that are this thick or thicker, or you're getting calls like that. But the average person like me is gonna mow their yard once a week, and you're never gonna deal with this. But you see what's happening when you got a side discharge and you blow your clumps out into the thicker grass, it sits on top of it. So whenever the mower comes along, it's just scooping it up, pushing it in front, and you see what you wind up with, huge piles like this. The cool thing is I didn't experience that at all with the rear discharge, and that's because it's throwing it behind the mower to where it's already been mowed. It's not throwing it out in grass that's elevating, suspending it, that you gotta come back and mow. Now, how you can avoid that with the side discharge is don't go around and turn around and come back like I did. If you'll keep mowing the same circle, throwing it away from the grass, you can avoid that. But oftentimes, most people go down, spin around and come back, so you're mowing into the grass one pass, out. Clear winner is the rear discharge in that particular instance, without a doubt. And oh my goodness, no dust on me whatsoever, the rear discharge. I'm covered in dust and grass clippings with the side discharge, but we kind of already knew that. So let's take a look. Real thick grass cuttings thrown kind of in a pile over here. Side discharge definitely looks like a better cut, but we aren't running the same exact blades, that's hard to say. Threw a strip over here, and then rear discharge. Man, rear discharge might actually be even a little cleaner. It is a little cleaner, y'all. Now, the cut does not look as good on the rear discharge, that's for sure. But the way the grass clippings kind of are, I don't know, man. These results are a little different than I was expecting. So let's go over here and take a look at this other stuff that was rear discharge only. That's this. Again, the cut quality doesn't look as good in my mind, but the grass clippings are just kind of spread out everywhere. So that's the point. If you like blowing your grass clippings and mulching them, rear discharge is probably not the way to go. But if you don't mind leaving them in the lawn to dry up and die, which is gonna kind of leave an after effect that doesn't look quite as good, then you want side discharge. All right, y'all, we got some different results than I was expecting. To be perfectly honest with you, I almost kind of wish I had a rear discharge. Just the simple fact of how clean you stay, not having dust all over me, not blowing it in my pool and everywhere else. I think I could live with the even clippings across the yard. It's not as clean of a look as when you can blow it and then fine mulch it, really clean a yard up. It's just gonna be different for you. No doubt side discharge is by far the most popular and what the majority of people buy. But for mowing thick grass, by far it feels like less strain on the mower, even though I was running a smaller deck. So if you're mowing a lot of thick grass, I think rear discharge is the way to go. If you have a lot of wind like this, big open fields, I also think rear discharge is the way to go. If you're wanting to mulch up fine clippings and have the best looking manicured lawn that you can, probably better go with side discharge, and that's probably why the majority of people have those. It does leave a little bit of a cleaner lawn behind. All right, I feel like I'm repeating myself talking about all the pros and cons. Hopefully this helps you make a decision. You really can't go wrong with either. There is a reason side discharge is by far the most popular, but I think a lot of people just don't know about the rear discharge option. A lot of mowers offer that, and Grasshopper has a rear discharge in a lot of their lineup, so you might want to go check them out. I'll put a link down in the description. They have tons of commercial mowers, from smaller entry-level series all the way up to top of the line models like this one right here. You don't necessarily have to do front deck either. You can get mid-mount. But let me tell you something, that front deck is the sweetest mower I've ever been on in my life. There is just no comparison in how smooth the ride is, especially with the articulating deck. I love it. Plus, as you see, we can quickly just change out and try other attachments. Speaking of attachments, y'all, you're not going to want to miss one of the upcoming episodes. I was able to borrow a piece of equipment for one of these. Hint, hint, a couple pieces of equipment. There is stuff made for this you would not believe. We're going to have a lot of fun in an upcoming episode. Y'all need to check it out. All right, y'all, thanks for watching. Hopefully you learned something new today, and hopefully this helps you make your next mower purchase on what type of deck you might want underneath that. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.